Ha! As if people are unfamiliar with the great Sass King. Science whiz, leader of the elves and drunkard extraordinaire. Oh wow, that's actually quite the old story. Let me give you some context. Long, long ago, even by elven standards, the elves lived as one with nature, peaceful and serene. The king kept this nice, calm, peaceful tranquility, and was as such dubbed Fuma Iran, which meant the Sleeping King. Now, as time went on and civilizations advanced on around us, an old elf king decided it was time for our kingdom to grow. Naturally, our technology advanced and we became a full-fledged civilization, which was dubbed Laria, or rich and bountiful. Now, as the borders of the land, presided over by us elves, grew, we ended up finding ruins of civilizations that had risen and fallen while we were so focused on coexisting with nature. Some of my predecessors, who became quite fond of archaeology, explored one particular civilization, known as the Pomp. And they became quite enamored with the language and art, and the elves started seeing some of this ancient culture mix in with our own. People named their children in names from the ancient civilization. It was quite the fad, or so people thought. It just never ended. It got to the point where eventually, people started giving our 5 biggest cities pompous nicknames. Mavar became Pastore, Ala became Agricoli, Arta became Roccaforte, Manca became Compera, and even our capital, Osto, became Cittadella. The old names are still the official names, mind you. Just, you know how it goes. Just know what people are talking about if you hear them say the nicknames. Now, my immediate predecessor, and oh boy, I could write a whole book on how influential she was. She was an absolute powerhouse when it came to the study of language. She ended up taking this ancient civilization's language, right? And combined it with some of the languages of the surrounding areas to develop a common language that could be used to foster peace between nations. Oh, Kanya, ever the optimist. Now, clearly, it caught on. I mean, heck, you and I are speaking common standard right now, even if the original peace between nations goal has failed. No thanks to that Maple King down there and his starting wars here and there. But nonetheless, she wanted to update the old title of Fuma Iran into the modern language she was developing. Now, as I mentioned before, this essentially means the Sleeping King. A simple translation, right? You'd think that, but it turns out a communication error, due to a young fellow with a speech impediment, had transformed the Sleeping King into the Cheeky King. Someone further down the line didn't quite think that Cheeky King had the right flow or feel to it, and so they put out a thesaurus of the new language and changed it to the Sass King. Now, relatively speaking, the error was caught quickly, but it was too late. Officials had already put Sass King into the official documents, and the moniker had stuck. Now, a couple hundred years later, I was born, and I have come to inherit the title. That makes sense? Hereditary? Oh no! The elves elect their king when the previous king steps down or dies. Now, I could go deep into all the boring bureaucratic bullshit, but I'll keep it simple. Interested candidates submit their names and qualifications to the High Council of the previous king. This council then picks out the most qualified candidates, who then go campaigning, telling the people what they're all about, their vision for the nation, showing off in general, and so on and so forth. I'm not quite sure I like your tone, Queston. Nonetheless, yes, people agreed with my platform most, and were most likely impressed by the way I dominated the other candidates in a battle royale. Good times. Hard to believe that was, 500 years ago now? Every decade there are satisfaction votes to see how satisfied the people are with the king's rule. Enough dissent, and the king gets a chance to appeal to the people for another shot to improve things. If it's deemed necessary, there's a vote, and if the people choose it, the king will have to step down, and a new king will be elected. Other than that, a king can rule as long as he or she lives or chooses. A king can choose to step down at the end of any decade if they feel so inclined. Incidentally, to my knowledge, only 2 kings have ever been ousted due to satisfaction vote, and I have only ever received satisfactory results, so I must be doing something right. Oh, that's a good one, because that's all about me. I was actually elected on the platform that we were too focused on the past, and weren't looking enough to developing our future, especially with all the unrest around us. Humans to the south of us, various beings to the north, other humans elsewhere, beasts and undead lurking about here and there, frickin' dragons. You know, we needed to protect ourselves, and our individual magic could only get us so far. So why not create a technology that uses magic to protect us? This idea of mine is how our shield generators came about. We eventually got shields around our 5 major cities, the ones I mentioned before. These were the most likely to be attacked should someone try to invade us. We had an eventual goal of covering our entire territory with a massive shield. But turns out we got sidetracked with other technology designed to make quality of life easier. Now, this actually led to some really neat inventions. For example, who do you think invented that recording device you're using right now? Now, we started getting technology to do things for us, and that probably led to the relaxed demeanor of today's elves. But hey, I'm not complaining. It also led to our magical distilleries. Oh boy, that's a tragic wound you're digging into right there. Short answer? Not really. Being in a nation adjacent to his, a shield of that scale simply would not have had the energy concentration to hold that kind of nonsense back. Luckily, our city defenses were enough to protect the people in the cities, but most of our minor towns and villages were completely lost, and a massive amount of our population was wiped out. There are now just about 1.5 million Larians. Can we get off these depressing topics and back onto something a little more fun? Of course I have some sort of military. It's just not on the scale of Maple's massive battalions or Lich's endless horde of undead. There are about 2,500 members in our defense corps. They spend most of their time protecting the people from wild beasts and the like. Now, should a conflict actually arise, I can also send in the Forza 10. They're our most powerful fighters, and in times of peace, they spend most of their time doing weapons testing down in the R&D labs. Now, you have likely heard of them before. They're always the ones that participate for my kingdom in the blood games. Ah, yes, she's a feisty one, but don't be creeping on my champions, please. Oh boy, I do hope we get to have the blood games again. If only Mapley could just stop starting a new war every so often. Seriously. Oh, I enjoy them to an extent. Mapley's fun, but he's too hot-headed. You never know when he's gonna point his cannons my way. He's so much like his grandfather. Lichy, on the other hand, is easy to reason with, but he's hard to trust. Of course, it's kind of difficult to trust someone when you never know if you're talking to his actual self or just another undead puppet. Does he even have a physical body? The world may never know. Oh yes, they're great. We don't really have any coastline suitable for a port city yet. We're working on blasting that out with the help of some of Mapley's dwarves. In the meantime, though, the nymphs are able to travel up the rapids and falls where the Koina River hits the sea. They serve as couriers, transporting our goods and payments abroad, for a small fee, of course. They're quite wonderful. It's a good thing I convinced old Bonebag to stop killing them. Oh gods, no! That's what we have dragons for. They build up large gold hoards for us to harvest. Ha! No! Dragon harvesting is actually an incredibly dangerous job. The guys who do it are total adrenaline junkies. We'll see if I feel up to it. Sure, and now I'm off to hit the drinks, now that what I say is no longer going to be recorded. Doesn't matter at this point. Toodles!